I so hate this team. I mean, so hate this team. They do the stupidest things at the stupidest ass times because, of course, we're talking about Bears football. And you had to know you were in some type of fuckery when you saw the weather in Seattle before this game. Oh, great, it's a frickin' blizzard. So you're going to have idiots talking about bear weather so they can watch some good old school ground and pound Bears football. And of course, you're going into this game Sunday afternoon with Justin Fields inactive due to injury. Yeehaw. So the one thing you had the most to look forward to this season, not in the lineup. Yay! You're going to get Nick Foles as the starting quarterback. And Bears fans collectively want to blow their brains out. But it gets worse. Not only was Larry Borum not starting this week, Jermaine Ifedi was, because we want to reward his stupidity last week for getting on Tevin Jenkins' case, of course. He named Jermaine Ifedi one of the captains for this game. And of course, he did exactly what you would expect that former draft pick bust of the Seahawks to do in his big revenge game. He sucked hind tit because, Bears football! To sit there and take away meaningful live game reps from a Larry Borum, one of your own draft picks, who's actually shown that he could potentially be your long-term answer at right tackle, is peak numbskull Nagy, is peak Bears football. Oh, but wait, there's more. Why would you want to start Thomas Graham Jr.? I mean, he only played really well in the bright lights of prime time Monday night against the Vikings. I mean, first game action of the season because somehow inexplicably this coaching staff and front office looked at him and said, yeah, he's not one of the 53 best players on this team to start the season, so we'll cut his ass and hope to God he's still there. So, of course, you reward him by putting him on the bench, at least initially, so you can give Artie Burns more goddamn playing time. So you're giving playing time to a bunch of one-year contract guys instead of guys that you have invested draft picks in that have showed way more upside, way more potential, and are much more critical cog to the future of this organization. If that doesn't speak peak Bears football, I don't know what the hell does. And then, of course, you got Tevin Jenkins, the second-round pick we waited forever to play. He goes out of this game with, what, an ankle injury? I'm going to start calling him Glass Jenkins because every time you turn around, he gets hurt. He's got that Chris Williams disease, I swear to frickin' God. Bears football! So at least Borum got in the game at left tackle, even though he's been playing most of the season at right tackle. Unbelievable. And that's just the start of it. That's just the start of it. First offensive series. What did the Bears do? Of course, 3 and out. What else would they do? Of course, what else would they do? Burning a timeout defensively after like 60 seconds. Bears football! Oh, fuck. Getting first and goal deep in the Seahawks red zone the first time. And when it comes to second down, of course you're going to run the fucking Wildcat, because why the hell wouldn't you? Matt Nagy's going to ride or die with that bullshit, isn't he? Bears football! Just so that way, on fourth and goal, you could throw 2 yards short of the fucking dead zone. Oh, it's pain. And you know, it was looking promising for a while that, hey, this indeed is going to be Matt Nagy's last game as head coach of the Chicago Bears. They're already eliminated from playoff contention. A loss here would mean they're now 4 and 12? Right? Something like that? No, 4 and 11, excuse me. You lose track of the wins and losses at this point when the season doesn't matter. There's no more justification. You want to get an early head start and let them go so that way the next coaching search can begin. But of course, just couldn't do that because this is peak Bears football. when the season is over with your third-string veteran quarterback, which, by the way, when you looked at Nick Foles today, you'd say, you know what? How in the fuck did Nagy look at him and look at Andy Dalton and think that Andy Dalton was the best equipped to start for this team week one, let alone the whole Justin Fields thing? Just look at the two veterans. I mean, Foles was solid today. Not David Foles, Nick Foles, F-A-I-L-S. Of course, they would find a way to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat and win this completely meaningless fucking game. Meanwhile, letting Rashad Penny, first-round bust Rashad Penny, go off for like 135 yards and be dominant because that's what the Desai defense does. Stupid-ass penalties, Desai defense, Bears football. Then you get down to that last drive. Like, as much as I could shit on the Bears, I'm going to shit on the Seahawks for a moment. You're at home in those conditions, and you've got like a double-digit lead on them. How in the fuck do you let the Bears win this game? You suck. Russell Wilson came back too early, sure, but he still hasn't been great. I don't get it. Like, you go from your first offensive series and the Desai defense leaving Thomas Graham Jr. all alone outside with DK Metcalf so he could streak down the field for a touchdown on a go route, to now you're in a spot where you're giving the Bears a chance to take the lead if they score a touchdown and go for two. And if there's one thing that I can actually give Matt Nagy credit for in this game, and only one thing, and it still pains me to do that, is at least when they scored this touchdown, he said, fuck it, we're going for two. At least he said that. Finally learning his damn lessons of when to be aggressive. But even on that last Seahawks offensive series, God, they looked pathetic. So you're going to have idiots celebrating this victory, and there is nothing to celebrate. This is peak Bears football. Win a game that means absolutely nothing with your rookie quarterback on the shelf due to injury, your second-round pick offensive tackle that you traded up to get in that round, out again due to yet another goddamn injury. You sat there and undercut other young players so that way you could get one-year deal veterans who suck more playing time for out of loyalty or whatever the fuck reason that makes absolutely no sense. All the while potentially leaving this situation there where Matt Nagy ends up coaching this team the last 2 weeks of the season. And then you watch. They go on and beat the fucking Giants, who are every bit the dumpster fire the Bears are. And then maybe in week 18, they beat the Vikings, who are also a bit of a dumpster fire. And now all of a sudden you're talking about a 7-10 Bears team, and now you got the delusions of, oh, maybe Nagy figured it out a little bit, and maybe you give him another year, give Ryan Pace an 8th year as general manager and all this shit. And you say, well, that's not going to happen. How the fuck do you know? A loss here guarantees Nagy's probably gone tomorrow, because there would be no justification or excuse at this point with the rule change. If you're saying, well, it's not a big deal, there's only 2 games left. Well, ding dong, you're wrong, dumb dick. Because you're going to have other teams that'll be able to go out there and start interviewing head coaching candidates. Teams like the Jags, teams like the Raiders, that may be as appealing of jobs, if not more so, but at least as appealing. The Bears are going to be behind the curve because they just had to go out here in the fucking blizzard in Seattle the day after Christmas and stick a bunch of coal in our goddamn stockings and say humbug and all that shit. Yeah, the Seahawks, it's time to move on from Pete Carroll. It's time to trade Russell Wilson, too. If you're a Bears fan, you should be thankful. Like I tried to warn you before the season, you really don't want any part of a Russell Wilson deal. And you see why now. You can make all the excuses you want. The reality is he hasn't been that good this year. And you saw that today. He was not great by any stretch of the imagination. Honestly, Nick Foles was the better quarterback on the field. That's pathetic. How the fuck the Bears ended up winning this game just contradicts so many damn things, other than the fact that this is exactly what the fuck you would expect this stupid-ass team to do when there is absolutely no benefit to this whatsoever. Because why? Because that's what you do with Bears football in bear weather. Boring ass football bullshit. Now we're going to have to sit there and probably watch this carry on for 2 more goddamn weeks.